So in this video what we're going to have a look at is naming benzene containing compounds. So we've got a few to have a go at. We've got methyl benzene. So when we do that, remember when you're drawing or naming, you look at the stem first, and the stem is benzene, so we draw benzene. And then we've got a methyl. Now we don't need a number because it's a regular hexagon, so all positions are equal. Now if we're doing skeletal formula, it would just be like that. If we're doing some sort of mixed formula, we could do that. Methyl benzene. What's a nitro group? So a nitro group is an NO2. So a benzene is this, and there's a nitro group. Make sure the connectivity is good and make sure the ring's drawn in, otherwise it's cyclohexane. The connectivity must be to the N of nitrobenzene. Benzoic acid. Now, a common mistake on benzoic acid is to try to draw the carboxylic acid straight off the benzene ring. Well, that's just not possible. Each of the bonds in benzene, each of the carbons can only have one stick coming out of it, because remember that that circle is a pi bond, it's that fourth bond. So each one of these C's can only have one thing coming out of it. Now in the skeletal formula that one thing is a H, but this one is being replaced by the carboxylic acid group. So benzoic acid, or benzene carboxylic acid as it's sometimes called, would look like that. And then the last one, sometimes when we want to use benzene as a substituent, rather than saying it's benzene and then something else, the benzene's stuck onto something, it's called a phene. So phenol is the alcohol of benzene. It has special properties, and that's why it has a bit of a different name. What I want you to do is see if you can draw isomers that have got 8 carbons and 10 hydrogens that contain a benzene ring. Remember that the benzene ring is 6 of those carbons, and then there's hydrogens on each of those carbons. See what you can draw that has 8 carbons but does have to contain a benzene ring. So there are 4. Remembering that benzene has got 6 carbons of its own, and at the moment 6 hydrogens. If I were to take one, put a stick on here to take one of the hydrogens off, to replace it with a carbon, there would only now be 5 hydrogens around the ring, and this carbon would end up with maybe 3 hydrogens in a methyl group. Now if I start you off and say, well, what if I did this? This would end up having 8 carbons, because there's 6 in the ring plus the 2 additional, and then 3 hydrogens on this methyl group, 3 hydrogens on there, and then 4, 5, 4 on this ring, so that makes 10 altogether. This is one of our isomers. Could you name that isomer? And then have a go at coming up with maybe a couple more. So the name for that is 1,2-dimethyl-benzene, because the 2 methyl groups are next to each other on the numbers 1 and 2. What about if you did this? What would you call this one? Okay, so we've got 1,3-dimethylbenzene. So can you guess what the next one's going to be? What's this one going to be called? Remember that the sticks must go to the C's of the CH3. What's that one going to be called? So we've got 1,4. So is the next one going to be 1,5 then? If you try to do 1,5, let's have a look. There's number 1. Count round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I've drawn there is actually the same as 1,3. So there is no 1,5 and there is no 1,6. So what's that last one? That last isomer is not to have 2 methyl groups, but to have a chain of 2 carbons. What would you call that? So there we go, we've got ethyl benzene. What I want you to do now is pause the video and have a go at the question at the bottom. And there we go, we've got bromobenzene. We don't need a number because every position is the same. Once we've got 2 chlorines on there, we need to say how they're positioned relative to one another. So 1,4-dichlorobenzene. And in this one, the name for the structure with just the Cu group is benzoic acid, and that takes priority. So then we're going to say there's a bromine on number 3, but be careful. Remember, you could count anti-clockwise as clockwise, so it's not on number 5, it's on number 3. Have a go at these next 3 that you have to draw from the name. So there we go, we've got 1,3-dinitrobenzene. When we have to draw 4-bromophenol, we draw phenol, like at the top of the page, then we put a BR on number 4, and then 3-bromo-1-chlorobenzene. And that would be perfectly acceptable to be called 1-bromo-3-chlorobenzene as well. Both of those would be correct. But it must be in alphabetical order.